So you probably heard about this phrase in regarding bulking. The 80% whole foods, clean foods, or and 20% processed foods. What is clean foods or whole foods? Whole foods are, or clean foods in a sense, are foods that are nutrition dense or less processed ones. For example, home cooked meals with ingredients that are closest thing to the natural thing, which is you get some potatoes, you bake it with some olive oil, for example, or you cook some dish, for example, adobo, tinola, homemade homemade dish that you have prepared for yourself without any of the processed ingredients or the preservatives from the supermarket or factories they have been doing, which means the ingredients are probably more like salt, pepper, onions, and all of those things. Although some of those vegetables, for example, are being sprayed with some pesticides, but of course you're gonna wash it, right? And it's not gonna be completely pure in a sense, because there's a lot of things they need to do to avoid it being, you know, what is the word? To avoid it being infested by insects, or I don't know, insects. Yes. So probably the more simple the ingredients are on your food. For example, rice. There's no added thing in there. There's no words you can read in the label which you cannot pronounce, right? And I'm not necessarily fear mongering you to not eat these things that are more a bit processed, or a bit more processed than usual. But I am saying that you should prioritize it more than the processed foods. Example, what should you prioritize? Rice Krispies or having some rice, right? Having a whole home cooked rice. And plus, um, the more less processed your food are, the more homemade or the more simple the ingredients are. Like easier it is, one, to track, and two, it's more in a sense affordable. Plus, you get to have the control over those portions. For example, home cooked chicken versus chicken that you can buy in the, I don't know, KFC or something. Yes, the KFC is a bit more delicious because of the spice. Or for example, a local chicken store where they deep fry the food or the chicken. For example, if you're cutting, you don't really have control over the portion size, the amount of oil, the amount of seasonings that is put in there, the coating and all, which is why that might be a problem, especially if you're cutting. However, for the ones who have limited, or for the ones like me, I have a more of a leeway to eat more processed foods because I am extremely lean. Alright, so not everything works for everyone. But however, there's pros and cons to eating both. For example, if you decided to eat processed chicken with a bit more of the coating, for your lunch, yes, you're gonna hit the calorie goal, but it might affect your stomach differently, or your gut microbiome differently. Homemade chicken made from your mom probably would be healthier because it has some veggies. It isn't soaked with coatings and all. It has some minimum amount of oil, seed oils, or whereas if you have chosen to buy from the store or a local shop, for example Chicken Star, you're probably gonna be the food will probably be soaked in seed oil, right? So there's that. For me, I tend to follow the 80-20% rule. I eat mostly whole foods, less processed foods. So I eat a ton of rice, potatoes if it's available, chicken, which was cooked by me or my brother or my mom, or yeah, beef sometimes. It's for me it's more affordable, and although you you need to what is the word, set aside some time for the cooking part, but it's worth it, especially the downsides of having more process. However, sometimes having really whole foods will get to a point of it's hard to eat more and more, right? That's where the 20% rule comes out, where you need to eat I don't know, an extra burger for your snack. I'm not telling you to overindulge or justify it. You know it's bad. You know it has consequences for your body. But in a sense, you will have to discipline yourself in a way that, man, I don't really, for example, for me, I don't really want to eat this because I know the consequence of this food in my system. But I will eat it to gain the necessary energy for my body, which can be a bit taxing in my head. But I really don't have a binging habit when it comes to food. So for example, if you are a skinny guy and you have some sweet tooth, for sweets, or you tend to have a binging personality when it comes to food, processed food, fast food in general, then you will benefit more from the extreme bulking of whole plain foods mostly. Yes, it's gonna be hard. You're gonna be eating like a horse, which is good. When you will get bigger of course. But that's the case. 80-20 rule. 80 80% all less processed food, 20% processed food. For me, I tend to indulge in some dairy, which is some bread, processed bread, with some sweets in it, or maybe some ice cream here and there. But I try to watch it. Also, you can also detect it with your skin. For example, if you have been eating a bit more of you are gonna be noticing when you're eating a bit more junk or sweets, sugary, things that are gonna spike your insulin more. Your skin will be a bit more spotty, or in a sense, you will get more acne, inflammation. Another cons for eating processed food, which is why it's, in a sense, it has a line, in a sense, that you need to be careful of if you're dreading it. So, there's a pros and cons to this. The more healthy your relationship with your food, the more you can go with the process. 30% process, 20% process. The less healthy your relationship, or the more you have an unhealthy relationship with your food, with the food which is processed in the past, where you tend to binge, eat a ton uncontrollably, right? Then you're probably gonna be benefiting with mostly clean foods. Again, it's up to you. Some guys, for example me, I eat or I drink a milk which is a bit more processed in general, and then it it doesn't, my stomach doesn't accept it or digest it as usual, which can be, hard because I like milk. But since I'm Asian, there's some foods, or especially processed foods, that are not gonna be the best for your body. So you must be careful with what you eat. But we are bulking, yes, we have more of a leeway to eat more, but in a sense, in this bulk, we are trying to achieve what is the goal, which is to gain muscles, to get our hormones firing in a good way, so that our bodies will think it's healthy and have an abundance of energy to gain more muscle. We cannot do that if our hormones are messed up, which is why at some point eating the same meals, or mostly having repetitive meals, sometimes is beneficial. I'm not saying that you should be a robot and not just eat every day beef, rice, chicken, rice. Although it could work, right? But you need vitamins. So yeah. Another thing too is, when you're bulking, fats is gonna be your friend in a sense, because when you're eating a ton of carbs, sometimes the volume of the food is a bit much. For example, rice. What you can do instead is, for example, cook some rice with some egg fried rice with some oil in it. Just don't do the extreme part where you're really literally drinking gallons of oils. I mean, I've done that in the past. I'm not drinking it, but I used to put olive oil in my oats. It tasted like cement, but it worked. I mean, I went from 48 kg to 50 kg, but it's not sustainable. So when you're consuming fat also, you need to be, gentle in a sense. Do not overindulge, but use it as a tool, you know, to know when you will add it. For example, peanut butter. I know a lot of you, maybe like me, likes to gob on peanut butter, but you need to be careful with your fat intake to not be extreme. For example, this is an embarrassing moment about me where I ate so much fats that my poop got liquid. So you need to be careful of that. Your gut, although you are bulking, your gut is not it's not it's not a mutant, bro. You need to take care of it. It's where your mood, your well-being, in a sense, connect your gut and well-being as a person in general is tied to it. So don't abuse it, in a sense. Take some consideration. Don't be a jerk to it. In a sense, glorify it. And not glorify it, honor it. Which is not really ours. Everybody's not really ours. So yes, the 80-20 processed foods can work for some individuals, especially for naturally skinny individuals who are really have a hard time of eating in general, extremely lean, extremely skinny from the start, or in general, they really struggle to eat. That's where dirty bulking can be a tool. But there's dangers to some things. Dirty bulking has risk. Alright. Like, you can dirty bulk for a skinny guy, but you might get the spoiled brat syndrome, where you want 2-inch arms, gobble up some food, right? It doesn't teach you the patience. So there's that. 80-20 rule can be beneficial for naturally lean guys like us, but not for that but not for men who has a history of relationship with food. But we need to be also careful, as where yes, we don't have an unhealthy relationship with food. We don't binge binge junk food and processed food, but we need to be careful because we might become addicted to it if we are not being careful, right? You say there is just one ice cream. Oh, it's okay. But ice cream and bicycles, perfect combo, especially for us. But be careful in a sense. Know your limits. Know your body, how it responds to your gut. Do not be blinded, right? That is all. Click the link in my program. Click the link in my bio for my paid program, where I teach you about how to bulk, my autistic level. I will literally teach you autistic level on how to bulk. Although, yeah, I'm currently bulking right now, so I'll teach you on the way of my lifting wisdom, my bulking wisdom that I've gained from 3 years of lifting. And we're gonna be having weekly check-ins also about your progress. We're gonna talk about your progress, your issues, and all. Aside from my full bulking course, which is hours of content. Get it. It's now on a pre-sale for $50, and then it will increase in the future as we get more and more people in. So click now. Join now for early access discount in a sense. See you in that course. Thanks for watching.